All right, we got a no cooling call here, and they're interested in changing out the system. It's going to take me a couple days to get to it, so I'm going to see if there's anything I can do to get it going in the meantime. Let's go take a look. I hear the dreaded hum. Looks like an ICP product. Wow, it's an old one. So let's see if we've got high voltage to it. Nope, it is tripped. Don't know what tripped it, but we better take some amp draw readings on it. I'm crazy about those kind of mounts right there. I'm noticing wires. I'm not really used to that being how they enter. Hot. That one hot as a firecracker already. Look at that little bitty feeder they've got on it. That's almost 7 amps just on the fan motor. I think I'm going to couple of little wiring repairs here. Look at that. Now see, this is what happens when you, well, number one, when you hire a substandard contractor or a home warranty company contractor. Sometimes they do this bad, but this is what happens when you think you can take your reversing wires and stick them out in the weather. And that right there, you know, only a matter of time before it's gone and touches. But for whatever reason, the breaker was tripped when we got here. And I just don't understand how this, I don't see where they came through from the factory, but lid, you can see the marks from the wires. I just don't know how that's good. It can't be how that's supposed to be. And it looks like, if this is the hermetic, that they're just letting the common from the fan motor feed the capacitor. And that is ridiculous. In other words, the common has to go through the motor and feed the capacitor. So they should just have this capped off and a common wire feeding this capacitor. Now that's assuming this is the hermetic here. I'll take this thing loose and look at it. See what it actually is. Okay, so just as I suspected, they're letting this tiny little common wire that goes through the windings of the motor, they're letting that feed the entire capacitor. And there's your hermetic, which is white. I don't know that it hadn't been patched on too, but so I'm going to change this out in just a few days. After talking to them, they've already decided that. But I'm going to go ahead and clean this up a little bit and see if I can't make it run for a few days. Come to find out, another company was here just a period of hours before we were called. And it ran for about 3 hours and then quit. So I'm not crazy about this little bitty wire right here feeding the black going to the motor. And you can see where they cut the common that did feed the capacitor off, and I don't even feel a wire nut or nothing in that. Probably the same whoever it was that did this is who did those wires on the top. And I mean, you can look at that. That's just, I mean, a wire nut would be way better than that. So, good Lord. So let's clean that up a little bit, and let's put a jumper actually to the common here and just cap this one off. It doesn't matter, it could stay either one, but let's actually beef that up and add some more common to it. And let's get rid of these two little wires feeding that, which may help a little bit, and fire it back up and see what we get then. Alright, so what I did, just to get them by for a couple days, is I ran this common, and I keep a bunch of these wires off of heat strips and stuff that are, you know, pretty heavy duty. So I ran this down here to the contactor and fed the common on the capacitor with that. There's your hermetic and there's your fan. So we capped off the common fan wire. That's really only designed to be big enough for the common going to the fan motor itself, not for the whole capacitor and the start of the hermetic. So then I took those little short, here's all the crap we took off. And honestly, these fan wires really don't have a lot inside of them. They just look big. But I just wanted rid of that, so I took that off and took that one off and patched it with these bigger ones going to the contactor here. Same thing on the black for that lead to the blower motor in that, or fan motor. And I don't really like this, but I'm going to put it right back like that, like it was. And so we've scheduled it for Wednesday. Today's Sunday, so we're hoping this thing's going to run okay just for a couple of days. And we're going to come out here Wednesday and put a 96% two-stage variable speed furnace and a 16-SEER AC. And I went ahead and got rid of these. I'm not going to pull the lid and actually do all this totally right. This should be better to run for a few days. And now let's see if we can make it run a while without tripping the breaker. You heard that compressor, that didn't sound real promising. And that white wire going down there, I'm thinking it's probably patched. It may have even burned the terminal wire off at one point. So this thing's been butchered and worked on still from 1988 to be still running even after some butchering and working. I think they can be pretty happy with getting their money's worth out of it. Normally I don't do run cap bandit stuff, but this thing was just too loose, so I wrapped about 80 rolls of tape around it, as you can see, and tightened it up on that bracket. If I was going to leave it, I probably would have just made a bracket out of plumbing strap and got it real tight. But we're good like this till Wednesday, so we'll get out here Wednesday and get some footage of the change out. This is pouring hot air out. So I'm going to watch it a few minutes and take some readings and decide whether or not I want to put the gauges on it. I think we're probably okay, but let's go look underneath to make a few mental notes for the change-out measurements. Oh, and I think all these crappy connections and little wires and goofy crap and underfeeding the common to the capacitor, I think that's why it tripped the breaker, but let's take a couple readings. See if they've changed. So that's right at about 1 amp. And that's right at about 1 amp. 1.25 on one leg, 1.13 on the other leg. So obviously the way it was starving and crappy connections. I mean, you saw it when I first got here. We were drawing 6 amps to that fan motor. This could have had a little something to do with it too, those weathered connectors. But regardless, I think it'll run without tripping now, and they'll be okay till we get here in a few days. All right, let's just take a quick look underneath and see what we're going to need to change this out. See, I can see we're going to need a plenum, because that has apparently got a slab coil on it. Let's get over there. So it looks like 2 12s and an 8. Well, they got an 80% furnace in here under a house. Slab coil, so all that's got to go. I think the return plenum will be alright. We'll tie it back on. So we're going to put a S9 V2 furnace in here, and we'll go ahead and leave it left discharge. It's just better that way. The coil we will probably leave right discharge like they have it here, so we can hook right back to their drain, and we'll run the line set in the same fashion that they have it run over there. Obviously they used to have a water heater in a pit right here before they put that aqua hut outside. Looks like up there that either goes to the roof or there's a power venter. We'll look outside, but I think we can go across the top of that duct and use that same hole for our PVC. So it's a 3-ton system. We're going to walk through the house and count up vents and look at it real well and just make sure we're still happy with that. But from the looks of the ductwork, 3 to 3.5 tons would be good. So we're going to look it over and offer to do some patchwork. You can see a few little places here and there on the duct that I've seen. No idea if they want it all replaced or not, but so we'll get some footage when we're done. And the things people do just to get to use a cheaper furnace. I mean, I guess that's why that's like that. Of course, in '88, the condensing furnaces were not quite as popular. It was the Pulse, but not that many of them around. So, not sure if they were doing it just to be cheap or if that's all they knew of, but we'll take all that down and do something a little bit better. In fact, with that porch right there, we may end up bringing the flue out down here somewhere. I don't know if we've got, oh yeah, it may just come out above this condenser somewhere. So anyway, let's go in the house and talk to the customer, and we'll get out of here. We got one more to go on today.